Hey guys, it's Monica, and in this video I'm going to be talking to you about how to wean a toddler. I post videos twice a week on parenting, healthy living, and life with little ones. If you're new, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel and hit the little notification bell so you can get notified anytime I post new videos. I recently weaned my daughter Ruby at 25 months. This wrapped up 5 years of either being pregnant or breastfeeding straight. So I feel like I learned a ton in that time, and I wanted to share with you the method that I use to wean both of my children. When weaning a toddler, I keep 4 things in mind. Start gradually, offer a replacement, set limits, and talk, explain, and comfort. When weaning a toddler, I do this extremely gradually. I would start 4 to 6 months before my personal cutoff time, which for me was 2 years. I think it's great for those mothers who want to go even longer and give their kids the opportunity to wean themselves on their own. I have found that kids tend to be a little bit older, closer to 4 or 5 sometimes, before they will naturally wean themselves. And I personally just didn't want to nurse that long. The World Health Organization, or the WHO, and many other World Health organizations recommend breastfeeding until at least the age of 2, and so that's the number that I picked and felt comfortable with. During the first year, I would pretty much feed on demand. Around 1 year, I would start to transition and start setting more limits and limit it to about 3 to 4 times a day. If they're wanting to nurse more frequently, I would tend to just try to redirect to a different activity and comfort them. At 18 months, about 6 months out from the time I knew I wanted to start weaning, we would go down to 3 sessions a day. So this would either be in the morning, and I would make sure that that would be after breakfast, either before or after nap, just depending on the day and the mood of the day and how everything was going, and the period between dinner and bedtime without nursing them to sleep. Once we were down to 3 times a day, I would keep this schedule for a few months. After a couple months of 3 times a day, I would cut out 1 session, and I would just pick the one that was easiest for you and for the child. Whichever one they're not as attached to, the easiest one to let go of is the one that I would start with. And in the transition period, when they would ask for milk at that time, I would just say, we can now have milk after breakfast, or after dinner, or before bed, or after your shower was a big one for us too. And I would also offer a replacement drink in this time to help with that transition as well. With Jude, I would offer him a special hot tea, which would just be some warmed up goat milk with a little bit of vanilla and cinnamon. So this was a fun special drink for him, so if he would ask for it, I'd say, hey, let's make some hot tea, or just offer them something else to kind of help replace that habit. And I found that just offering another special drink for them will sometimes help if they're struggling with that transition. And then after a couple of months being down to 2 feedings, I would cut out 1 more, using the same techniques, the same comfort measures, and offering their special drink. And then once you're down to once a day, I found it to be pretty easy to redirect. If they had it in the morning, I would say, oh, you already had some this morning, you can have some again tomorrow. Or if it's at night that they're having it, then I'll say, after your shower. So then it was like something that she knew. It was after her shower, she can have milk. Ruby got down to once a day around the age of 2. And at this point is when I start to explain that the milk is going to be going away soon. So with each nursing session, whenever she would nurse, I would just gently kind of remind her the milk would be going away soon because she's getting bigger, so that's not like this big surprise all of a sudden. It's like one day she wakes up and she can't have milk anymore. It's a gradual thing that she knows is coming, and so it's not like a sudden cutoff where she's like, what's going on? It's something I wanted her to be prepared for and know what was going on. Usually this isn't an issue because toddlers are pretty busy usually, and I didn't do it at a time when she was like super sleepy or tired, and so she would want to get out and go play or do whatever she was going to do, and so it usually wasn't a super long nursing session. If it did start to turn into a longer nursing session, then I would kind of set a time limit there and cut it off after a certain period. I found that once they were down to once a day, that they were really usually more distracted in their life and playing, that sometimes they wouldn't even ask for a day, so then it would go down to every other day or maybe every 2 days, as there's not as much of a routine around it anymore and they're distracted with other things, so they're not asking as frequently. And eventually I found that time spacing out, and when it got to around 4-5 days between asking, I would just simply tell her that the milk's gone and offer cuddles or the favorite drink or distract with some other activity, and this usually went over fine and didn't really ever have that like really sad, emotional, like, oh, I need it, or I'm really sad, or I'm crying. It was actually a really smooth transition at this point because I had been talking about how it was going to be going away for a while, and then they're used to not having it for a few days. So when it finally does become the cutoff point, which is kind of hard for you to figure out, but once you do and you know it, then it's much easier for you and it's much easier for them. And I didn't find that I had those tears or the trauma around ending it because it had been such a gradual process that they were a part of and that they knew was coming. With Jude, he was actually a little bit younger. He was around 21 months. But I was actually pregnant with Ruby at this time, and this was around the 21-week period of pregnancy where your milk actually transitions back to colostrum. So I think this actually made it a little bit easier for him because at one point, even though I was still doing the steps and decreasing the time, once it got down to like every other day, every 3 days for him, one day he just came over, he said he wanted it, and then came over and was like, no, I don't want it anymore. And then that was it for him. So, you know, it's different for every kid, but I really feel that slowly, gradually transitioning them and letting them be aware of what's going on and letting them be a part of the process makes it so much easier, and it makes that transition super smooth. I didn't want it to be traumatic or have any sort of lasting effects, and I thought that this method made it really easy for me and for them to transition away from nursing. So the biggest things for me were setting limits of the times of day that we were going to nurse, how long the nursing sessions would be, and when they would be. As well as understanding this is a very slow and gradual process where you're offering less and less. I also felt that offering cuddles, comfort, and just supporting them through the process was really helpful. I really hope you found this video helpful. If you did, I would love for you to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much for watching.